curious what was she getting at, because I feel like she was definitely trying to get at something. So we'll get her on and figure that out. At 7:31 though, let's stick with the phones and let's get a federal presence on the radio with Frank Mansell from FEMA. Good morning, Frank.
Half a day.
Hi, Frank.
Hi.
So, what's happening with FEMA? Any new supplies that arrived over the weekend or in the past 2 weeks since we last spoke?
Well, when did we last speak?
About 2 weeks ago.
It's been a minute, Frank, like the kids say.
What we've had is the initial order came in 2 Sundays ago, and that was air freighted in and landed at Anderson, and that was the first shipment of the strategic supply.
Mm-hmm.
And then we received another shipment probably about a week and a half later, and we're just discerning whether that was part of the national strategic supply or if that was an order that was already placed by the folks from Guam.
Mm-hmm.
So we're sorting that out, but it is predominantly personal protective equipment, gloves, masks. It includes, I believe, some of the face masks that were promised by Apple. So there's a good enough supply right now of personal protective equipment, and we also have the ventilators that were shipped in the second order.
What about the FMS? Are we seeing anything moving on that? I know they were in the storage facility, and you were talking about how they were looking at bringing in another 50-bed FMS.
We're looking right now at availability of the third. We're working with the 2 right now as far as how to place them, where to place them. And a lot of that will depend on an assessment from something that the Corps of Engineers did last week. And we went out on Saturday, and we're going out this morning to take a tape measure to make sure that everything is going to fit.
Where were the assessments? I know that it was like 7 were done, and then you said now you guys did one over the weekend and another one today. Are they going to be at the same?
No, they're not. They're not new assessments. They're the short list. We just want to make sure that.
So you've narrowed it down from the 7.
Yeah. So what we've done is once we've got it to, the 2 that we're going with, you really have to send somebody out with a floor plan and map out where the beds are going to go, how much room there's going to be between beds. Is there going to be a line of sight for medical staff to keep an eye on more people? How are you going to get them in? How are you going to get them out? Where's the fresh water for cleaning? Things like that.
Were you part of
those are the details.
Were you part of the group? I think it was the Red Horse on Saturday. They were outside of the Guam Memorial Hospital conducting it looked like they were conducting an assessment for one of the alternate care facilities.
That I don't know. I wasn't aware of that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I just saw the pictures that were posted that the National Guard was out. I think it was Saturday. So where are the these facilities going to be located?
Well, the 2 sites that they're located, that they're working with, and again, based on what the assessment is, what the Corps have said, they like I say, things are. You've got to take a tape measure to this, and is it going to work? So, as much as there's a punch list and an assessment done, you actually have somebody from the Federal Medical Station is on the island here, and she's going through and making sure that all of the details are looked after. So as much as the core team went in and did their punch list, there's some fine details that have to be looked at. So those sites, I don't want to give you those sites' names if they happen to come off.
But you it started at 7. What did it narrow down to?
It's down to 2.
To 2 sites. Okay.
Frank, what can you tell us about?
Are they off base?
Yes.
Okay.
They are.
Yeah, I want to ask about the test kits. How involved are you guys in getting test kits out to the territories in the states? And are we getting any? Can you just give us an update on that?
Well, in this particular instance, all of the test kits are being ordered through Health and Human Services, and that's in coordination with the government of Guam. So anything that's being shipped would be done through that. This is a little bit different than the normal process in that Health and Human Services is involved directly with the government of Guam. I will have somebody back to you on exactly how many are ordered and how many are coming out.
And what's you guys' take on these South Korean test kits? There's been a lot of discussion about how valid they are.
And FEMA shipping these South Korean test kits to other locations.
The requests are coming from those other locations, so I know of nothing at this point coming this way from South Korea. I know that CNMI did order and received some.
Through FEMA?
60,000.
Yeah. Through FEMA?
No, that was direct. That was direct purchase from the government of Saipan.
Would they be reimbursed for something like that?
They believe it's a coverable charge.
They believe, meaning they're out on their own, or is that something that you guys agree with, or is it still
I mean,
unresolved?
if FEMA has shipped these same sort of test kits to states in the mainland, wouldn't that mean that they would be eligible for reimbursement?
Yeah, I believe that they would be comfortable in making that decision. You know, at the end of the day, there's always a possibility that it wouldn't be allowable, but given the circumstances, I'm sure the governor of CNMI made a decision with a great deal of confidence.
Right. So you're saying that all the governor of Guam has to do is ask for South Korean test kits, and then we probably get them, and that it would most likely be a reimbursable expense, and that we would spend on this maybe, and then get the money back down the line.
That would be something, first of all, that that's something that the governor would have to request. I don't know that the request would be denied. I doubt it.
So what's the deal with these South Korean tests, though, Frank? I mean, you would know. Are they legit or what?
I haven't even played a doctor on TV, so I can't tell you.
You could, though. You could.
If I stayed at
maybe a veterinarian,
the Holiday Inn, I could.
No, we're just asking because I mean, how many miles up the ocean they got 60,000 of them, but we're sitting here testing 7 people a day. So I think it's a good ask,
Well, I think there are kits on the way, and I don't. I know there are kits on the way. I just need to know how many, and I'll have to talk to HHS and see exactly what's on its way.
And then what about?
It's not that you're out of kits.
Right. Yeah. It's just that we don't have 60,000 of them.
60,000 is a large number.
It is. Frank, what can you tell us about the FEMA trajectory? I know that Congressman Khalili Sablan out of the CNMI had posted what he said was the trajectory from FEMA for the, Guam and the CNMI. What can you tell us about that?
Well, the trajectory is something that's an evaluation that's ongoing all the time. And I think you saw it in D.C., where the initial trajectory was in the neighborhood of between 100 and 220,000. Then as more data came in, they fine-tuned that. And I think as this happens from territory to territory and state to state, as you get more accurate information, you redo the model and you look at different trajectories. We probably will be seeing a new model here in the next couple of days. So you want to right-size. Our goal is to work with the state to provide enough to meet the need, maybe exceed the need a little bit, but definitely not to hoard and call for everything based on the first model, because that first model is the worst case scenario.
So how different is the model that we're going to see in the next couple of days, and how involved is FEMA in putting out that model? And is it something that they're doing in conjunction with, the governor's office, or?
Well, FEMA's not involved with that. All I know is that the folks at Johns Hopkins is working on a model, and like I say, if you work with spreadsheets or if you work with any modeling, if you introduce a variable and then you let the computer run it, then you've got, for instance, if the model says everybody wears masks, then you feed that into the computer and it comes out and says, well, this might be what's going on. Then you say everybody's social distancing, and then the model comes out with a new number. I think those numbers are going to come out here at Fort Guam in the next couple of days.
Okay, well, that's something we want to anticipate. So thanks for that heads up.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for the heads up.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sorry we haven't got everything, but this is a number of moving pieces.
Mm-hmm.
And as much as you think you've got the answer, the target shifts a little bit.
It's rapidly evolving, Frank, is what we've heard.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to just clear up some things. So these alternate care facilities and the FMS, it's kind of the same thing?
No.
Okay.
They are two different things.
Okay.
Sometimes you can fit the FMS inside an alternate care facility.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you use the alternate care facility as a standalone unit, such as a hotel, and you would use the existing beds and modify the hotel rooms. That's not necessarily practical, depending on what the modeling says. Sometimes you have to do that.
So for Guam though, are we looking at alternate care facilities with an FMS inside?
Yeah, you're kind of looking at that.
Okay.
So
And right now it's two different sites. We've narrowed it down.
Two different sites and two different FMSs. So the alternative care sites that we're looking at would involve bringing in the FMS and placing them within.
Okay, so 250-bed alternate care facilities.
And Frank, what would these facilities?
The 250-bed federal medical stations, and then the buildings that they're going into are going to be called alternate care facilities.
Got it.
And Frank,
with a third one on the way.
Third one is being assessed right now, and again, this goes back to the hoarding that I talked about.
Okay.
That's not a proper word to use.
Okay.
You don't want to oversupply for the demand.
right?
Like a panic buy.
Yeah, panic buy.
Yeah.
Okay.
So essentially, we've got eyes on it, but I told you, up front, I'm not going to talk to you about hypotheticals. I want to talk to you about what we have in hand.
Yeah.
Because that's the reality.
I was watching the press conference over the weekend with the Army Corps of Engineers General Todd Semonite, and he was talking about all these alternate care facilities that were going up across the country and contracts that were signed. Were any contracts signed with the government of Guam?
We have issued a mission assignment, and a mission assignment is a type of contract. And right now we're just waiting on, like I say, we're looking at the sites, and we have issued the contract, but we're just right now just want to make sure that the scope of work is accurate.
Frank, is that a public document? Is that something that we could get a copy of? Seems like
I
it would
don't
be
know.
a public document.
I'll check on that.
Yeah.
Mission assignment. Okay.
It's called a mission assignment, and generally that's covered under what's called direct federal assistance.
Right.
And that's a mechanism whereby we can sort of make things happen in a hurry.
Okay.
And Frank, with these alternate care FSM facilities, FMS.
FMS.
Isn't that terrible? I'm sorry to have used
All right,
that
it's all right.
acronym.
Yeah. No, but so what type of services would be conducted at these sites? Would it be people just go in? They get
Is it for COVID or
Yeah.
non-COVID?
Yeah.
It would be for COVID, and it would be basically non-ICU COVID.
I see. And so would this include patients who exhibit symptoms or are also asymptomatic?
There you got me on the doctor question again.
Right. Well, because I'm assuming that we're standing these facilities up with the idea that somewhere down the road we're going to do some kind of mass testing that's going to require us to have these facilities in our inventory.
Mm-hmm.
You should come work for us.
Man, how much you pay?
I had one more question. So we're going to stand up these alternate care facilities or field medical stations.
Yeah.
Who's going to man them?
They will be staffed by personnel that were also part of the mission assignment, but it's a different mission assignment. So the Corps of Engineers can't provide medical staff, so we're going to have to go through Health and Human Services or another federal agency to pull together the staff that will look after the federal medical stations at the alternative care sites.
So we're looking at people from off-island flying in.
I would say so. I imagine the medical staff here are going to be pretty consumed.
Right.
Pretty much busy.
Okay. Frank, I think is that about it, Bree?
I know I'm missing a few things.
I know, but my bladder has only got about half a question in it. Still adjusting to the radio schedule again, Frank. Yeah. So appreciate it. I got your number. Wow, you put out a lot of new information for our listeners, so we thank you so much for that.
Again, where were those two sites?
You gotta watch Bree. She's sneaky like that.
All right,
well,
thanks.
That's fine. I understand.
Yeah.
As soon as I can, I'll get that out to you.
And also the mission, was it mission statement?
Mission assignment.
Mission assignment, yeah. If that's a public document, I mean, if we could get a copy, I'd love to see that.
Yeah, mission assignments are normally they're prepared on the back row of you have what's called a response center.
Right.
And there are usually 2 or 3 people, and that's their life during a disaster, and they just draw these up. And they sometimes change on the fly. Sometimes they, I've seen them stroked, thrown out, and rewritten to suit the need.
Wow.
Our mission assignment, as I explained before, is basically we say, here's the goal. We want to feed 27,000 people. Go. And then we leave it up to them to do that and accomplish that the quickest way possible.
Okay. Well, thank you for the insight, Frank. Appreciate it.
Okay, very good. I'll get back to you on the availability of that document.
Yes. And wash your hands.
Twice a day.
Okay,
All
thank
right,
you.
take care.
All right.
Okay.
See you, 7:49. Hey, we're going to take a break. KUAM News Takeover, Guam's